Welcome back to the channel. We're back with more Final Fantasy Commander content today. I know you guys may have watched the first part, but this is going to be the second part of the Final Fantasy Commander tier list maker thing. We did the monocolored ones in the last video, but now we're getting on to the multicolored ones. Figured I'd just share my thoughts with you guys, and still not sure how I'm posting this. If I'm posting it in one part, two parts, maybe three. Who knows? Probably not three. But yeah, figure get my thoughts on all the commanders, see what you guys think, and how you guys rank them yourselves. Make sure to leave that down there in the comment section so you can share your thoughts. But let's start it off here with Absolute Virtue. In 8/8 for 8, spell can be countered, flying, protection from each of your opponents. Sorry, you have protection from each of your opponents. I always forget to read that first part there. So, with that in mind, I still think it is still a solid C tier, because it is going to be, well, it does have flying. It's an 8/8. If you give it double strike, you're easily at like a point where you can two-shot your opponent. And your opponent not being able to target you with things, that is still a pretty nice ability. I do have to say so myself. Next up we have Sid, Timeless Artificer. But Sid Timeless Artificer is a 4/4 for 4. Artifact creatures and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each Artificer you control and each Artificer card in your graveyard. You can have as many Sids as you want in your deck, cycling for 2. Is he good as a commander, or is he just good as a card in the deck is the question. He could cycle so he could draw you cards, so you don't necessarily want him in the command zone for that. But in terms of the stat boost that he gives your creatures, I think that's a really big stat boost at a certain point, especially if you're running like plenty of like spells that create adopters. He's in white and blue, so he has the colors for the what's it called, synergies with artifacts there as well. Does he progress your gameplay forward? Not necessarily, but you could run more Sids in order to draw more cards. So that's worth it, I'd say. I'd say it's still a solid. I meant to change these to A, B, C, D. Well, S, A, B, C, D. Let's go and do that now. There we go. But yeah, I'd still say a solid C tier for there for me. Following it up, we have Hope Esteem. Probably one of my most excited for commanders here. He has 2 fun strategies that work together. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. He can also gain life due to his life link there as well, so he helps progress your gameplay forward, starts off your gameplay. Is he powerful enough for S tier is the only question. While I do think he's fun enough for S tier, and there are plenty of ways to mill out your opponents with blue especially, and plenty of ways to gain life with white especially with the new crystals that just came out. It does beg the question of, does your opponent want you to gain life, and does your opponent want their cards to be milled? No opponent wants either of those things for the most part. But you are in mono blue. Sorry, you are in blue, so you could counter their stuff and not allow them to mess with your plan. But still, I think you're going to get a little bit targeted just because of the strategies that you're running, which does put them just a little bit lower there. Following it up, we have Titus, or Titus, however you want to pronounce it, Blitzball Star. He's a 2/1 for 3. Gets +1/+1 for every time an artifact enters. When he attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls. He keeps getting stronger. He's hard to be blocked. The stat boost is nice, but I don't think it's as nice as like Sid's ability. Being in blue-white still, though, with the artifact synergies, I do think that could still put him there in C tier. Just because, like I said, similar to Sid, like having all those Adopters enter the battlefield powers him up a whole bunch, getting him up to a pretty hefty stat total there. And he could swing in pretty easily once he, gets that stat boost in order to swing for that commander damage. So, still solid C there for me. Following up, we have Kyriel Baldessian. Lifelink, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may return target creature with mana value equal to that spell's mana value from your graveyard to your hand, only once each turn. So here's the thing with that. That is a good ability. Is it good enough for the command zone? Because you have to have exactly. But the thing is, you're probably going to have most of your spells be mana value 2 or 3. as are most of your creature spells, and that recursion is very nice. You're in blue, so you do it during instant speed, and it's once each turn, not just once during each of your turns. So I think you're going to get plenty of opportunities to do that during both players' turns. I think that puts it at a solid C there for me. Following it up, we have Lyshurst. Prowess, non-creature spells cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast your 2 or more non-creature spells this turn, has double strike, so it's a 2/2 double strike with prowess. Well, it's really a 4/4 with double strike at that point. It does a little bit of cost reduction, but is that good enough for it to go into the C tier? You are in blue-white, so you are in 2 out of the 3 Jeskai colors. So you do have plenty of ways in blue to untap your mana and cast a second spell. But is that enough? You don't have any draw power. You don't have any recursion. You just have a big creature swing in, which is basically what Absolute Virtue is, but I think this is just good enough for C. It is like one of those things where like Azorius is one of the best 2 color combinations, arguably. So it'd be hard to put like much below the C tier for this. But we have your Ranger, Aggro, 2 mana for a 1/3. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, gain 2 life. Tap. Look at the top 2 cards from your library. You may exile face down. Look at the top card of your library. You may exile face down. Okay. Until end of turn, you may play cards exiled with his ability. Cost 2 less to cast. So cost reduction, draw power, all while gaining you life all at the same time. I think that's a solid B tier. Maybe A. I think high B, low A for that one. But still, overall, a really good commander there. And I think one that would be worth checking out. Next up, we have our Dimir commanders. Starting us off, we have Emmett Selch of the Dirt Seat. Spells he cast from your graveyard cost 2 less. I mean, we're in black and blue. We're going to have stuff to cast from our graveyard between flashback and just black spells. Whenever one or more opponents lose life, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. The spell will be put into your graveyard, exiled instead, only once each turn. I mean, you don't have to be the one to deal damage to your opponent. You could just have your opponents deal damage to each other, and you keep getting this ability. It makes it so that they cost less, so it keeps having basically draw power mixed with cost reduction, mixed with being able to have recursion on top of that. I think that's an S tier on this one. Yeah, I'll put on S tier. Next up, we have the other Emmett Selch something. Emmett Selch, Unsundered. Vigilance, enters their attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay. Beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, may transform them. Then his transform state is Vigilance. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. Works very well with the other Emmett. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exiled instead. Only into your graveyard of exiles. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. I think that is a really good ability. Just being able to recur so much. But how often are you going to get to 14 cards in your graveyard? Sorry, I'm not putting him in C tier necessarily. Just moving him up for now. I think he's going to get removed before you could get around the table with 14 cards in your graveyard. So, like, because he has like such a big target on his back. Only thing with that is that as well, he is in blue, so you do have ways to counter that. And he does have a little bit of draw power on him. So I think still low B, high C, I'd say, for him. We have nothing in D tier yet. To be fair, we are in multicolored commander format now. So it's a little bit harder compared to like monocolor to put stuff in D tier, I feel. Golbez, Crystal Collector. Whenever an artifact enters, surveil 1. That's nice to see. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so we have ways to get stuff into the graveyard and stuff out of the graveyard. Control 8 or more, opponent loses life equal to that card's power. So if ways to put stuff into a graveyard, ways to get stuff out of the graveyard. Do you have enough ways to keep 4 to 8 artifacts on the board? I think so. I think this is another solid B. I think you just have so many ways to create Doctors, so many ways to create treasure tokens, that you're going to have plenty of ways to get that creature back and deal damage to your opponent. Next up we have Lock Hole. Death Touch, a lifelink. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, discard a card. Okay, it's a little bit of draw power that your opponent doesn't tend to want to block, but are you going to want to swing in with your Death Toucher? Not normally. If you have removal in the command zone, is your opponent going to be upset that you could keep recovering your removal? No. I think that's a D tier just because it gets you a little targeted with removal in your command zone, and its ability is just okay. But speaking of removal in the command zone, next we have Sephiroth, Planet's Heir. Vigilance enters creatures your opponent's control get -2/-2 on a turn. He's in blue and black, so if you have a Toxtril deck, you could technically put Sephiroth at the helm instead. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put X+1/+1 counters on Sephiroth. I know he isn't like the best on his own, but like the cards that he works with, he really works with. And I may just be like biased because I built this deck for a video. So far, these I built Hope, Absolute Virtue, and Sephiroth. Other ones as well, but you guys will have to check out the other videos for that. But he got pretty strong, and he has Vigilance. The 6 mana does drag him down a little bit. And having removal in the command zone, people tend not to like. But still, having a board wipe in the command zone is still pretty powerful, I'd say. So I think I'm still going to keep him up here. Next up, we have Xande's Dark Mage, Menace, +1/+1 for each non-creature, non-land card in your graveyard. We're in black, so we have plenty of ways to get stuff into our graveyard. He's just a strong creature with Menace. If this was mono-colored, I think that would be... Well, actually, no, we're putting our other strong creatures just in... But he's just him as a strong creature. I think him and... Yeah, I think these 3 might go a little bit lower down to D tier, just so that we could flesh out things a little bit more. Yeah, because these are just these creatures getting stronger. These are multiple effects, multiple things being affected. I mean, so is Absolute Virtue. Absolute Virtue is 1 creature, but I really like this card. Oh, I almost missed one. We almost missed... What's her name? I know it's Ultimacia something. Ultimacia Time Sorceress enters her attack, surveil 2. Beginning of your end step, may pay 8 and exile 8 cards from her graveyard. Transform her and take an extra turn. Are you going to get up to 13 mana in order to do this? It is at the end step. You're in black and blue. Is your opponent just going to let you have your... let you sit around and wait until you have that much? I don't think so, but still an extra turn is an extra turn. So I think that still puts it at B tier. I think it could be argued C or A, depending on like your play group though. Next we have Black Waltz number 3. 1 second. Just making sure I have the proper effect before I read it off. It's flying in Death Touch. I forgot about that part. I only read the second part sometimes. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, deals 2 damage to each opponent. Okay. That's a lot of things in black and red. You basically keep drawing cards, keep dealing damage to your opponent. You double that damage, you triple that damage. But where's it fit in? That affects each other opponent. So I think it is C tier. I think something that affects each opponent could go in C tier. Something that would, if it just did to one opponent, I think that's, it's only 2/2 for 4, but that's a flying Death Touch, so it is a really good blocker on top of, like, dealing all the damage to your opponent. Yeah, I think I'm good with C tier for that. Garland, Knight of Cornelia. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this one's from Final Fantasy 1. That's cool. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, surveil 1, pay 7 mana to transform it. Whenever this creature dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. If we didn't have anything in D tier, I think I would have found our first thing into D tier. But do we do another tier? Add row below. Yeah. I think we need an F tier. Just because compared to everything else, that doesn't even like get close to being nearly as good as like the other things in D tier. Just because it's surveils 1 sometimes and like just doesn't fit in the command zone. Next up though, we have Kuja, Genome Sorcerer. At the beginning of your end step, create a tab 01 black wizard creature token. You control 4 more wizards at the end step, transform him. If a wizard you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, deals double that damage instead. A damage doubler along with something that kickstarts your plan by creating those tokens in the first place. I think that's a solid, not F tier, B tier. Just because, or no, I'd give that A. It starts your ability, it keeps getting you the ability, and it doubles your ability. I think that's a solid A tier there. And also, thanks for the person pointing out in the comment section that apparently he should have been Wooberg instead of being just the 2 colors. But next we have Kefka, Dancing Man. During your turn, it's indestructible. At the beginning of your end step, exile a card at random from each opponent's graveyard, and you may cast those spells without paying their mana cost. Free spells, indestructible, but 7 mana for 6/6. Are you getting to 7 mana in... It's not Boros, I forgot what the name of the color combination is. I don't think it'll be too often. And I think there are plenty of ways to wheel your opponent, mill your opponent in black and red. So he does have plenty of ways to support him, but I don't think it's enough to warrant any higher than C. Like, it is really, I think B actually, stealing 3 cards from your opponents. That has to be C. Next up we have, oh, I think I missed one. Yep, Lock, Treasure Hunter, can't be blocked by creatures of greater power, so nothing greater than 2 power. He's a 2/3 for 3. Whenever he attacks, each player mills a card. If a land card is milled, create a treasure. So on turn, you may cast spell from among those spells. Okay. So he could block being on guard. He doesn't have to worry about swinging in. Get some treasure, get some spells. I think that's D tier. I don't think really any higher than that. Like, he's okay. I'm not super excited for that ability. Nothing screams out, you need to play this to me about that. Setzer, Wandering Gambler. Whenever Setzer enters, create the Blackjack, a legendary 3/3 vehicle artifact with flying crew 2. Okay. Whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, flip a coin. Whenever you win a coin flip, create 2 tap treasure tokens. I don't like vehicles. I'm just going to put that out there. And whenever a vehicle deals damage, so you get to keep flipping coins based upon the amount of vehicles you have with that. And he's just enough to crew the Blackjack. But is that, like, you just get a couple treasure tokens, maybe. I think I want to put it low D, high F. Yeah, I think low D, high F is fair for that one. Like, there's nothing that screams out like, ooh, play me, play me. I think it's just very much like, oh, this is an okay card. Next up, though, we're on to red-green. On to another vehicle commander with Balthier and Fran. +1/+1, and Vigilance and Reach for all your vehicles. Whenever a vehicle is crewed by Balthier and Fran, again, additional combat phase with that spell being able to attack. For 3 mana. Additional combats are nice. And she doesn't even have anything to start the plan, so you don't get a vehicle with this, unlike Setzer. But additional combat is nice enough to deserve C tier, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think C tier is deserved. Next up is Barrett. What's his subtitle? Avalanche Leader. Equipment you control enters. Create 2/2 Red Rebel. Beginning of combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target rebel you control. Free equip. I like to see that. So you get he gets the things to attach things to. He's always there to make sure he does that. 4 mana for a 4/4. I think that's, yeah, it's a solid C. Nothing like too crazy going on. Like you get a Colossus Hammer on something, I guess. Sure. I guess it's B tier. Gladiolus and Amacita. When he enters, search the library for a land card, any land. And whenever a land you control enters, target creature you control gets +2/+2 in trample. So basically, the turn he comes down, you get a 10/10 with trample if you could give him haste in any way. That's really good. And you get any land out of your deck. This really kickstarts like a whole bunch of things just by getting that land. So you get any land you want. I think that's a solid A tier. Next up, we have Red 13, Proud Warrior. Vigilance, Trample, 3/3. Other modified creatures you control have Vigilance and Trample. Whenever he enters, return Aura Equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. We should say Battlefield, that would be nice. We have the Recursion, we have the Power, we have him benefiting other creatures. I think that's been solid C tier for what else we've been doing. This is supposed to be B. Sorry. Next we have another landfall ability here on Radia, Summoner of the Mist. Whenever land you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Okay, a little bit of draw power there. Return target Saga card X. Return Saga card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. So she could summon one of your summons for X, where X is that spell's mana value. It's recursion, it's draw power. It's D tier. No, it's C tier. Well, then again, we don't have that many weight. Yeah, no, red green has all the good summons too. I just don't like Terra. I don't feel like reading Drew all that text. So I'm just gonna put her up here so we don't have to deal with that. Sorry for anyone who wanted to watch for specifically that card, but I just don't want to read that much right now. But on to the next color combination. We have Simic with our white-green. Starting us off, we have Aerith, Last Ancient, Lifelink. Beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand, which I mean, life gain decks, use Lifelink. It's only during your end step's the only thing, but does some nice recursion. If you gain 7 or more life, return to the battlefield instead. You're in white, you have plenty of ways to gain life. You're in green, you have plenty of ways to gain a lot of life. I think that's a A tier for me. Just getting anything back from your graveyard onto the battlefield for just gaining 7, and just by playing the game essentially. Especially if you just have ways to power her up, that could just be 7 off the lifeline. Garnet, Princess of Alexandria. Attacks, you may remove a lore counter. Any number of sagas you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Garnet for each lore counter removed this way. She's really good with the sagas. She really helps them out a whole bunch there. And she get pretty strong herself with that lifelink, giving you plenty of life to gain for Aerith. But is it S tier? Is this A or S? I don't think it's enough for S tier. I think it is still solid A tier though, being able to help out your creatures that much. Next up we have Renoa, Heart Lily. Enters, create Angela, a legendary 1/1 dog creature token. Whenever Renoa Heart Lily attacks, another target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature you control. You're playing his token strategy, you can't have more than one Angelo. Does that put it down? It benefits a whole bunch of creatures with a bunch of stat boosts, is the thing. Well, does it benefit another target creature? So I think that's D tier, because like anything that just powers up one thing, we've been playing in D tier so far. So that also goes in D tier there for us. Sorry if you guys hear a dog panting, that is my dog. He is currently now next to me, looking to take part in the video. Next up though, we have Sarah Farron. For Dream Mana, you get a 2/2. First legendary spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. Being in combat on your turn, you could transform her if you control 2 or more legendary creatures. Her transform ability also gives legendary creatures you control +2/+2, along with having that cost reduction. Cost reduction's nice, it benefits a whole bunch of things. But is it enough? I think so. I think it's enough for C tier. Any higher, I don't think so, but benefiting a whole bunch of creatures is solid enough for C tier for me. We have Waka, we have Sherlinda, you have an Acolyte. Lifelink, whenever another creature you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. If its power is less than Sherlinda's power, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on Sherlinda. Okay, so you have some things enter with +1/+1 counters sometimes. Or you get +1/+1 counters on this creature. I'm not impressed by that. I think that's a F tier for me. I think I may put that and move that up to like D or C if we get rid of it. That because it does help out a bunch of other creatures, and it helps out itself. So like, it's just as good as Titus or Titus, however you want to pronounce it. Waka, Devoted Guardian, Reach, Trample, 4/4 for 4. Whenever Waka deals combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target artifact that player controls and put a +1/+1 counter onto Waka. At the beginning of your end step, if a counter was put on Waka this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. He helps out a whole bunch of creatures. He helps power them up. He has removal. Normally just helping out other creatures is C, but having that removal and ways to power himself up along with having trample, I think that's a solid B. There are so many commanders. Why did I decide to make this video? Okay. Yuna. Hope of Spear. During your turn, Yuna and enchantment creatures you control trample, lifelink, ward 2. That's a lot of abilities. At the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Recursion and boosting your other creatures. Similar to Waka, she helps other creatures, and she has that recursion. I think this may actually be S tier though. Like that amount of recursion. Yeah, and especially with how many sagas are going to be getting removed. Yeah, that's S tier for me. Are we missing any now? Is the question. Nope. I just don't know what color combination this next one is, because it doesn't show it on this tier list I decided to use. Let's go to one. Oh, these are white-black, actually. That's the color combination I'm missing. So I know I'm missing something. Oh, nope. Typed in the wrong type. Sorry. Using, what's it called? EDH rack for like the list of what commander's abilities do. But first off, we have, what's he do? What's his name? Oh, another art belt. Whenever you cast a white spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary creature you control. Gain vigilance. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary creature you control. And you control they gain menace, vigilance, menace, plenty of power onto them. I think it's just a power boost. It's not like super impressive, but it does do enough to earn the C tier there. Not enough S tier yet. Next up we have Estinine, Verloon, however you pronounce it, from Final Fantasy XIV. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It gains flying to end the turn. Okay. I mean, we'll be casting plenty of removal spells. Remove our opponent's flyer, being how to swing in. At the beginning of your second main phase, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of your opponents who were dealt damage this turn by a Steen or a dragon. Okay, so like he could easily deal damage, so you lose the life, draw a card. Is he good enough to be a dragon commander though? I think he's really just like a little bit of draw power with powering himself up, and that's all that it is, earning himself a D tier spot. Up next we have Judge, Magister, Gabrant, Menace. Whenever another creature or artifact you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter. It's the same thing as Titus. A lot of these things are just whenever you do blank, get a +1/+1 counter. I get it. It's good. It's fun. But I think it's still D tier compared to like some of the other stuff we have. Next up we have Papalimo Totalemio. If I pronounce that right, you have to subscribe. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain a life. Okay, that's pretty nice. Sacrifice this creature. Each opponent who lost life this turn sacrifices this creature with the greatest power. Okay. You have to sacrifice it and it keeps going to command zone. I just don't like this one. Like, I get what they're going for. It's just too much mana. Because you also have to tap it with that 4? No, I think that's an F tier again. Next up we have Rufus Shinra. Whenever Rufus Shinra attacks, you don't control a creature named Darkstar, create a legendary dog named Darkstar. Okay. That's it. We are in white, so well, it's legendary, so we can't even double that token. We can sacrifice it for something, but do you want that in your... I don't think you want that in your command zone. I think that's another F tier. I'm sure like plenty of these like could easily be downgrading to F, but just based on what we like, I think they're still a solid D there for me. As long as we're keeping things consistent, I think like as long as you like keep things consistent, it's okay however you rank things. Squall Seed Mercenary, 4 mana for a 3/4. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike, aka give him double strike. This way, whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so you give him double strike, he swings in, you deal 6 commander damage because your opponent doesn't want to block a first striker, and then you return 2 dings from your graveyard. If you get a Curse Marauder or a Fleshbag Marauder, that's really good. That, I think it's, I want to put it S, but I don't, it doesn't have enough ways to kickstart its own ability. So I'm going to, we are in white and black, so like we're going to have plenty of ways in the deck. But like, in terms of this, like list of how I've been like trying to be consistent with things, I think it is still just a solid A tier. Next up we have Shantoto, Tactician Magician. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Shantoto gets +X/+0 until end turn, where X is the amount of mana spent. If X is 4 or more, draw a card. Okay, a little bit of draw power, a little bit of powering herself up. That's D tier for how we've been ranking things in the past. So let's give it to it. Telic, Great Sage. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, get a 1/1 hero creature token. 4 or more mana was spent to cast it, draw 2 cards. If 8 or more mana was spent to cast it, sacrifice this creature and deal... sacrifice this creature deals that much damage to each opponent. What's that much damage? Oh, 8 or more. Oh, so that's a lot of damage. Create tokens. You can draw cards. Draw 2 cards, in fact. I think... I'm having trouble between C and B for this one. I think B, just because like it does so much. Next up is Emperor of Palamusia. Tap for a little bit of mana. Only uses to cast non-creature spells. If at least 4 mana spent to cast it, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Once it gets enough counters, transform it into the Lord, Master of Hells. Deals X damage to each opponent, where X is number of non-creature spells in your graveyard. Non-creature, non-land cards in your graveyard. Well, it's really non-creature spells because land isn't a spell. Taps for mana. It gets plenty of burn damage. It powers itself up. So, I think it's either high C, low B for me. Following up, we have one of the strongest commanders, if not the strongest commander in this whole set. Vivi, Ornithir. Add X mana in any combination of colors of red or blue, where X is Vivi's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn whenever you cast a non-creature spell. Put a +1/+1 counter on Vivi. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. All the mana and all the power. And that's a solid S tier there. I don't think there's any arguing that for this card. Like, just, it does so much. It is, like, it does start off a little weak, so your opponents can, in theory, remove it before you have a chance to do anything with it. Are they going to be able to? Probably not. Next up, though, we have Cloud of Darkness. That doesn't look like Cloud. Flying. Whenever Cloud of Darkness enters, target creature an opponent controls gets -X with -X, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. It's 5 mana for a 3/3 with flying. After it removes a creature. I don't know if it deserves D. I think D. Yeah, it's still a removal spell in the command zone that we get to repeat. Let's put D. Except Void Warlock. When it enters, gain 3 life. At the beginning of your end step, there's 6 more permanents in your graveyard. Transform Xdeath. And he transforms into Neo Xdeath. Trample. Power equals the number of permanents in your graveyard. He powers himself up. He's similar to our other D tier commanders, but he does have Trample. Does that power him up any more than what we currently have in D tier? I don't think so. Next up, though, we have Genova, Ancient Calamity. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to Genova's power up to one target creature you control. That creature is also a mutant, and whatever mutant you control dies during your turn only. Draw cards equal to its power. It's ways to kickstart its ability, ways to draw cards. I think this one, it's at least C. I want to say at least B as well. B tier I feel like is the one I've been least consistent with. But I think that one's a solid B. Like, you get the draw power, you get the power boost, which will then help out the draw power. That's at least B. On to Boros, which I think is probably the one with the most commanders in it. We have Bannon, the Returner's leader. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from among cards in your graveyard that was put there from anywhere other than the battlefield this turn. Whenever you attack, pay 1, discard a card, draw a card. Okay, recursion, draw power. That's been pretty solid C tier for like our other commanders. So let's leave them in C tier for that. Right? Yeah, because red was also that. Yeah, he doesn't get anything for free. Yeah, make cast. Yeah, it has to be from this turn. So yeah. On to next, we have Cloud, Planet's Champion. During your turn, as long as Cloud is equipped as double strike and indestructible, powers himself up a little bit. Equipped abilities activate a target Cloud costs 2 less to activate. I want to put him in F, just because I think that is pretty bad. But since I've been putting the other ones that just power themselves up into D tier, I think I have to put him in D tier as well. Following that up, we have, what's this one's name? Edgar, Master of Machinist. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact spell from your graveyard. So there we go, that recursion. Spells cast this way as an artifact and enters tapped. Wait, if you cast a spell this way, that artifact, okay. Whenever he attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. So we get recursion and we get power boost. That's similar to Red 13, so put him in the C tier as well. Next we have another Boros commander with Giat, King of the Dwarves. Double strike whenever him or another dwarf you control enters, whenever an equipment you control enters, discard a card, draw a card. That's it. It's a little bit of draw power. Not enough draw power to go above F tier. Is he as bad as the other F tier commanders now? He's a 1/1 for 2 with double strike. Sorry about that. Sorry, I've been talking for a while. My voice is going on me. Let me pause so I can get a little bit of water. Hope you guys take a little break for water too. Sorry about that. Talking for almost 2 hours straight does take it out of me. But next up we have, what's this card's name? Joshua, Phoenix Dominant. Oh, well, I just got a little bit spoiled because I was currently playing this game. I thought he was, no more. Joshua enters, discard up to 2 cards, draw out my cards. Exile Joshua, return to the battlefield, transform. Whenever feeling deals 2 damage to each opponent, the first 2 turns, turn any number of target cards with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we have recursion, we have draw power. Did we do B for this one? I think this one's B tier, just because it's also a 4/4 flying on top of that. Next up, we have one I want to build but haven't built yet. Lightning, Army of 1, first strike, trample, lifelink, doubles the amount of damage any other damage you would deal until your next turn. This one's an S tier for me personally. Like, first strike, and then since the way first strike works is that you deal the damage, then your other creatures that don't have first strike deal the damage. If you give us double strike, you're dealing 4 times the damage. You go to your opponent's stuff, you're having them deal 4 times damage to that player. It's overall just an amazing card in my opinion. No draw power, no recursion, so like maybe it deserves like A tier. Maybe it does deserve A tier. But I'm making this list. It's my list. I could put it in S tier. You decide where you want to put it in your list. Mog, Moogle Warrior, 3 mana for 1/2, lifelink. Beginning of each end step, each player may discard a card. Each player who discarded a card this way draws a card. If a creature was discarded this way, create a 1/2 Moogle with lifelink. If a non-creature card was card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on each Moogle you control. So, creates Moogles, powers up Moogles. It's overall just something that powers up other creatures. So, once again, that belongs in the C tier for us. Sephiroth, Fallen Hero. Whenever Sephiroth attacks, he may put a cell counter on target creature you control. Comes a 7/5, and he could recur himself by sacrificing a modified creature. Yeah, I think recursion mixed. He only recurs himself. Yeah, I think that's C tier because it's the recursion mixed with the powering up other creatures. That's been pretty solid C tier for other creatures as well. And to round out the Boros commanders, we have Zidane, Tantalus Thief. Whenever Zidane enters, gain control of target creature and opponent controls. We love that fact. And whenever opponent gains control of target permanent you control, create a treasure token. If you want to see how this deck works, we're definitely creating a video on that for that commander gameplay. But he deserves C tier. He has the ability to start his ability, end his ability, and, you know, just be a menace to your opponent for just a little bit, though. And just Boros, Blink, works really well with him. And on to the final two. Oh, nope. Yep, no, this is the final two color combination. We have Simic. Where were we? We have Omega, Heartless Evolution. Whenever Omega enters, each opponent taps up to one target permanent, non-land permanent that opponent controls. Put X stun counters on it for each of those permanents and gain X life, where X is the number of non-basic lands you control. So we're in Simic. We're going to have plenty of ways to get lands onto the battlefield. Is it worth 8 mana for an 8/8 that gains you maybe like 8 life? Well, tap up to one target permanent, non-land permanent for each opponent, so you can gain up to like 24 life. But that's really just hard to get to in the first place with the 8 mana. I think that could easily be like something that's swinging for big damage and gain you big chunks of life, so I think still C tier. Like, I'd have trouble putting it any lower, but low C, high D, I'd say. Ignis, Scientesia. Look at the top 6 cards of your library, put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Pagery, exile a target card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, create a food. Okay. Stops our opponent's plans, gets us land. Is this F tier? It's hard to put a landfall commander for Simic into F tier. Because, like, we're still in landfall. We're still in Simic. We could still do landfall things. Next up, though, we have Kimari, Valiant Guard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Kimari and tap target creature and opponent controls. Then you may have Kimari become a copy of that creature, except it's Kimari, and Vigilance, and any of the other abilities. It's just a creature that powers itself up. As always, we're putting that into D tier. And the final one, we have Sin, Unending Cataclysm. Flying, Trample. Sin enters, remove all counters from enchantments. Sin enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is twice the number of counters removed this way. When Sin dies, put its +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, then shuffle this card into its owner's library. Powers itself up, it powers something else up. It's Flying, Trample, huge creature at a certain point. I think that's a solid C tier. Yeah, do I want to put a B? No, I think it's B. It's similar to Absolute Virtue for me in terms of like what it could do. It doesn't give you that protection, but like being able to like move its counters around does help out a whole bunch. All the rest are almost all, what are they called? Precon commanders. But on to, one second. Trying to pull up the names of them here. Yep. First up, we have Jiraha, Tia, Scion Reborn. Lifelink, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life, where X is that spell's mana value. If you create a 1/1 hero token with X +1/+1 counters on it, so basically spend 7 mana, get a strong creature, powers up other creatures, loses you life but has lifelink. Does that creature also have lifelink? Yeah. I think just like similarly to what we've been doing. Solid C tier. Helps you power up your other things. I forgot to put this one up here. This one, whenever you have 5 or more towns, the Wandering Minstrel. Whenever you have 5 or more towns, create a 2/2 token and pay 8 mana to power them up by the amount of towns you have. I think powering up other things, but also your lands enter untapped. I think it's solid. No recursion, no draw power. I think it's solid B tier for me. I know it's really good for EDH, but that's not calling out to me. But yep, next we have Noctis, Prince of Sion. You may cast artifact spells from your graveyard. We got a lot of recursion. A lot of ways to remove those counters, though, is the thing that I like about this one. I think this one is going to be A tier for me, in all honesty. Just because of the amount of recursion that you get. I just like being able to sacrifice like a 0 mana spell to get a mana to pay 3 life to get it back. Basically getting 2 free mana off a Lotus Petal. And then we have Y'shtola, Knight's Blessed. Beginning of each unstep, if a player lost 4 more life this turn, you draw a card. Alright. Whenever a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, deal 2 damage to each opponent and gain 2 life. This one I'd also say is solid A tier. Like, you're going to have plenty of ways to deal damage to yourself, deal damage to your opponents. Or is it worth S tier? It's burn, it's draw power. Is it enough? I think it's just A tier. I want to put it in S, but I just don't think so. Next up is Kefka Laughing Mad. I think this one is. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, sorry, Kefka Court Mage. This one is. Whenever Kefka enters or attacks, each player discards a card. You draw a card for each player discarded a different card type. 8 mana, transform it into flying. Whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. That's a lot of draw power. And I think that is a solid C tier, just based upon the amount of draw power that you're getting. Next up we have Cloud. Which Cloud is this? Sorry, 1 second. Just making sure I pull up like the right one, so I'm reading off the right effects, as always. Until I don't. Let's see. Sorry, it's taking a second to load. Cloud, X-Soldier. Haste, whenever Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it, powers himself up. Draw a card for each equipped creature attacking. Cloud's power 7 or more, create 2 treasures. So we have Ramp, we have Draw Power. That's been solid C tier for our other commanders. Let's leave him in C. He also powers himself up, so I think B actually. Yeah, he deserves C. B. Sorry. Tifa. The Martial Artist. Melee, giving you additional power for each extra combat. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deal combat damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If it's the first combat phase, there's an initial combat phase. Initial combat phase is just fun. But, like, is it enough to go above C tier? I mean, you have to have a creature with power 7 or greater. She's not 7 or greater herself. I think that's just C tier. So it's just a way to buff your other creatures. Like, giving them the extra combat is essentially the buff that you're getting from some of these other ones. What one are we on to next? Choco, Seeker of Paradise. Choco, Seeker of Paradise. He's not B tier. He is S. Attacks with the amount of birds that you whatever amount of birds you have that are attacking an opponent, you look at that many cards on the top of your library, put as many lands on the battlefield, and another one into your hand, and the rest into the graveyard. I think this is a solid S tier. You get Ramp, you get Draw Power, you get another card into your hand, you get Mill, you get Birds, and he's a bird himself. I'd say it's solid S tier for me, just because like he does so much. Next up we have Titus. I just gonna keep pronouncing it wrong. That's okay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may remove a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. Whenever 1 more creature you control counters on deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. The thing about it is I want to like this card because I like proliferating. I feel like I have trouble putting... Like, he does power up other creatures. But is it enough to put it into C tier? I don't think that's enough of a power boost. But it does... No, it's similar to some of the other C tiers. But like, it's not as good as Tifa, is the thing. Or Kefka. Kefka should have been B. I don't know why it's in C. But next up we have Yuna, Grand Summoner. Grand Summon, add 1 mana of any color. Whenever you next cast a creature spell this turn, that creature enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever another permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, if it had one or more +1/+1 counters on it, put those counters on something else. Or you could just move like lore counters, move a whole bunch of counters around. Is this S tier though? I think it's A tier for me. Just, I don't know, it's not as good as the other S tiers, just. Like, it could be. But I think these are easily like the top 5 commanders from this set. Like, we can't put Yuna and Yuna. That's our Yuna bias at that point. Next up, we have the ones from the final Precon. And then we have the monocolored ones, which this one, F tier. It's a mana rock for Drory. I just tell you that right now. But yep, next up we have Celeste, Rune Knight. Celeste enters, discard any number of cards, draw that many cards +1, a little bit of draw power there. And you can get stuff into your graveyard. This way, when you have that recursion effect go off, you get the additional +1/+1 counters. She's a lot of infinite combos with that, with the persist ability. So I think that's a solid A tier there for me. And then the last one for this Precon is Terra, Herald of Hope. To be in combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying. Pay 2 mana. When she does damage, she'll recur something mana value 3 or less. She's just as good as Squall, but she has flying instead of double strike. But you do have to pay that additional mana, is the only thing. But being able to have a way to kickstart that on top of the ability just puts her just as good as him. Sin and Ultima. I feel like looking at more abilities. Ultima, I know, helps it so that your colorless lands tap for some additional mana. Just some additional ramp, and maybe shutting off your opponent's lands. Solid C tier there. And Sin helps you get a card back at random from your graveyard. I don't like random, so we're putting him in F for that. But yeah, that's the tier list. If you guys want to see the monocolor tier list, make sure you check that out in the description. Or if you want to make your own tier list, make sure you check out that link in the description. Hope you have a great rest of the day.